Time for a redesign. This presentation is part of the web series from the Digital Toolbox collection by Roundpeg. And my name is Lorraine Ball, and I'm going to be your instructor today. And my company, Roundpeg, has been building websites for small businesses for, well, almost the last 15 years. And so I'm going to share with you today some of the things that I know about web design and planning your web redesign. The first thing I think that every web design project should start with is some discussion around why now? What's your objective with this redesign, and what are you hoping for as an outcome? And there can be a lot of reasons to do a redesign. Maybe you simply want to update your image, improve the lead generation functions on your website, improve your SEO, and maybe your current design just won't let you do that. Add new tools or features to your website, make it easier to update. All of these are valid reasons. The question is, what's most important? Because in any web design project, there's going to be trade-offs. So where do you want to focus your energies? Which one of these is most important? Maybe it's simply that you want to launch new products. You can do all of these things, but most of the time you have to pick and choose where you really want to focus your energy. And before you get started, before you pick up the telephone and call a web design company, you really should take some time to get organized, because the more of this work you do on the front end, the easier the web design is going to be, the smoother the process is going to be. So let's take a look at the basics. Number one, if you're going to start this process, you really want to make sure that you have all of your domain credentials, that you have logins to your website, to your hosting, and to your domain renewal. And those may or may not all be the same. Very often you have registered your domain name with Network Solutions, but maybe you're hosted at SiteGround, and maybe it's a WordPress website. And so when you get ready to update, you want to make sure that you have all your credentials and all your passwords, because I can't tell you how frustrating it is to get all the way to the end of a web design and not be able to launch the site because we're missing some of the most important credentials. You want to know your renewal dates. You want to know when your hosting contract is up for renewal and when your domain name renews. And quite honestly, if you're serious about being in business, you want to make sure that your domain name and hosting are on auto renewal, and that you can cancel it if you decide you don't want the business anymore. Because I've also had clients that have lost their websites because they didn't renew their domain name. And in some instances, they figured it out soon enough and we were able to recover. But we actually had an instance where we had a client literally lose their domain name because they didn't pay the bill. And then when we went back to rebuild the site, we actually had to get them a new address because the old one had been snapped up by someone else. You want to make sure that you have adequate hosting. Again, one of the things that we've run into recently is GoDaddy has been in the web hosting business for a long time, and they have some old legacy servers, and some of the older websites that we've gone to update were on servers that literally could not handle the new websites. And so you want to make sure before you start the project that you have adequate hosting. You want to audit your Google account. As you're starting to plan out your redesign, you want to know which pages on your website are working and where are people coming from, and you want to use that data to plan your redesign. And you want to audit your existing site. You want to look at really all the features of your website, the design and the copy. And if you're not sure what an audit entails, you definitely want to go back and watch the first presentation in this series. You want to start assembling all your assets. You want to make sure that you have clean logo files, well-defined brand standards, a collection of good videos and photos, whether it is stock photography or new photography. If you're launching a new website, you may want to have new employee pages. Start collecting those things so you don't get to that moment in the design where the web designer says, hey, we need photos or we need your logo, and you have to start scrambling. If you have forms, that worksheets that you want people to be able to download and access in this process, get those documents cleaned up and ready to turn over to your web design company. And then I want you to think about the words. I want you to review all of your existing content. And this is a great time to have maybe an editor go over and read everything that you've got, clean up grammar and spelling, and really ask yourself, does this copy tell the right story? Is there too much or not enough? Based on your Google Analytics, is your copy attracting search engines? Are you using appropriate keywords enough in your existing copy, or do you need to make some adjustments? Collect your brochures and other marketing collateral where you have told your story, maybe in ways that you don't do on your website, but maybe you'd like to add. And then decide who's going to write the new content. Don't assume that the web company is going to write your content. Some developers have writers on staff and some don't. I've seen on a number of occasions people have gotten to the end of the web design and there are blank pages on their website because it didn't occur to them that they were supposed to write the content. Dream big. As you're thinking about your web design, start looking at other people in your industry and in other related industries and find features on websites that you like. We did this analysis for a coach whose website we were building. And so we looked at a lot of different websites and showed our client what was possible. And so here are some of the websites that we looked at, and I want you to see kind of the range of approaches, and then I want you to go out and do the same thing for your business. So as you're looking at other websites, again, we were building a website for a coach. This was a fairly simple website. You had a picture of the coach and some great information. The real crux of this site was getting people to watch her video. In this instance, you have someone and he is really focused on executive leadership, and it's definitely about him, what he does, but it's definitely about him. Looking at this example, the message is different. Even though in both cases you have pictures of your coaches, here his message is really about the customer. Engage your talent, enrich your business. Do I have a preference? Yes, I definitively prefer websites that talk to customers rather than thump your chest, but two different approaches. All three of the sites I've shown you really are built around the coach, though. They're really built around the personality. I'm going to show you two other websites in the same industry that took very different approaches. In this instance, this organization really focused on their customer. Connect with what really matters. And what really matters is empowering educational institutions and nonprofits. So making things happen basically for the children that they're serving. And so this image and this entire website was really focused more on the outcome rather than the personality. And I loved this start the conversation. In this instance, again, the emphasis was on what they did, but really the picture and everything else was supporting what the customers were looking for rather than who the person was who was delivering the service. And when you're looking for different approaches, look for really different approaches. This is a website that's way out there. In this instance, it is about the personality. It's about the things that he does, but this kind of Instagram feel is really different in terms of your first interaction with the website. It didn't necessarily appeal to me as somebody who might hire him, but I appreciated the different approach. And here, same thing. It's very, very black and white. It really communicates this idea that we can do these things, and it's a very no frills, no nonsense approach. Both the website design and the very streamlined navigation. The benefit of looking at lots and lots of different websites is it allows you to build kind of your wish list. Full confession, we're doing this right now at Round Peg, and I set my team up and said, I want you to go look at other web design and marketing companies around the country. Don't look at anybody else here in Indianapolis. And I told them very specifically, avoid the big cities. We're based in Indianapolis, so our market is similar to Columbus, Ohio, St. Louis, Louisville, Lexington, Des Moines. But we're not Chicago, and we're not New York, and we're not LA. And so I really wanted to look at companies that were serving a market similar to ours. While I'm sure there are some really cool and interesting and edgy designs in New York and LA, I think that's a little bit too out there for our customers. So as you're thinking about your design, think about the markets that you serve. Where are your customers? What are they likely to connect with? And build your wish list. On your wish list, you want to collect URLs. So as you're looking at a lot of different websites, we use a Google Doc and we just paste all the URLs that we find that we think are interesting into one document. We make a list of features that we saw that we thought this was cool, we should look at this. We look at different styles, again, like the exercise I just showed you, where we looked at, 6 different websites from 6 or 7 different coaches and really looked at how did they present their messages? What was different? What was interesting? How do they use media? One of the trends that we've seen lately, and honestly, I'm not sure I like it or not. You see a lot of these big hero images are now videos, but they're not full videos. They're mostly static images, maybe with like a little bit of motion in one corner of the image. It's interesting. Do I like it? Does it make sense for all my customers? It varies, but I like to see how different companies are using. Where are they using video? Where are they using audio? How do they use photographs on the site? And make a list of offers and landing pages. How are companies like yours collecting information from web visitors? Are they making offers that you could be making? So let's talk about you, because this is your website. Who's your ideal customer? Now, if you're paying attention, you're probably thinking that my slides are out of order, because I just asked you, or I just said we were going to talk about you, and now I'm showing you your ideal customer. But here's the truth. Your website is not about you. Your website is about your target customer. Who are they? What do they want? What are their issues? And what makes you uniquely qualified to solve their problem? Because if you don't start with your customer, you're going to end up with a nice little website that is completely irrelevant for that customer. You're going to end up with a website that makes you feel good, but does not necessarily meet your customer's needs. I always recommend that companies start by creating a persona where they create one person who represents their ideal and target clients. If you're curious about this, you probably want to look for our webinar on defining your ideal customer. By giving your web design company your customer persona, it is easier for them to begin to create something that this customer is going to care about. All right, seriously, who are you? This is a fun exercise. What you want to do is you want to find 5 or 6 words that represent you. Now, what we normally do is we give our clients a list of about 50 or 60 words, and we tell them they can only pick 5. They usually end up picking 10 or 11, and then we really have to narrow it down. But it is these adjectives that help decide or direct the style of the website. We're working on right now a logo, and the first word the customer used was bold. And so they had a lot of other words, but they kept coming back to bold. And so as we were thinking about the design of that logo, we knew we needed strong fonts that made a big impact. And then some of the other words came along with it. One of the things that we often find is customers will pick what we consider to be contradictory words, where someone says they want to be rebellious and professional. And it's not that you can't be both, but that really then prompts the question, which is your primary? Which is the bigger part of your personality? If you're not sure, this is a great exercise to do with your staff or to do with your customers. Ask them to describe you in 3 to 5 words and start writing those words down. And as you look at the list, if you find that you don't like some of the choices, you may want to think about what you're doing in your marketing that's conveying that impression. This is another great exercise. It's called the brand association. And it's a little bit more outside the box and a little creative. But if you were a flower, what kind of flower would you be? When I was at Conseco, we were, and those of you, some of you may not be familiar with the company, we were an insurance company that was focused on Middle America. And we decided we were a daisy, not a rose. While a rose is beautiful and elegant, it also has thorns. And so we really wanted our brand to be presented as more of a warm and friendly and lighthearted brand rather than very, very upscale and elegant. We decided we were a golden retriever and not a French poodle. Both are fabulous dogs, but golden retrievers are warm and friendly. Now, if I was a fashion brand or if I was working for a very upscale bank, I might go with the French poodle. And you can do this exercise of brand associations across a wide range of products. I've done cars, I've done restaurants, I've done breakfast foods. It's amazing what you learn about how you want to be perceived in the market when you ask your customers these questions and when you ask your employees these questions. And from here, you want to think about your visual style. And you want to, just as you collected all of your written assets, you want to think about what are your brand colors? Do you have them well defined? Are you open to changes? Are there patterns or textures that you want associated with your brand? Or again, is this something that you're open to changing? At Round Peg, well, we had been using kind of a hexagonal pattern with dark blue backgrounds under everything. And when we made the transition to the digital toolbox, you'll notice that all of our new graphics are kind of these black and white images of different types of tools. That was a very conscious effort, and we've actually used the same styling on our website. Symbols, icons, what do you want to represent your brand? I remember talking to a financial planner, and I asked them, and they said, one of the only images we absolutely don't want to use is a mountain, because everybody is always drawing these images climbing up to some sort of summit. So mountains are out. We had another client that had a very specific reason for having absolutely no red anywhere in their brand. And then again, the kind of photos. I really like black and white imagery. I think it's really strong because it's subtle. And it also, from a design perspective, I like the way colors look on black and white. Maybe you like full color. These are things you need to think about before you start the process. One of the really cool ways to do this is to create a mood board. To start with a phrase. Again, we've got these words. We want to be warm and welcoming, but crisp and modern. And then search for images. We actually did this with a client. This was their phrase. And the other thing in that warm and welcoming, they also really liked the idea of blue denim. And so we actually went to Pinterest and collected images that inspired us. We had some that were like this room, very warm and welcoming, blue denim work shirt. We liked these kind of handy, sort of hand-constructed images. This was for a plumber, and his ultimate website, well, it actually had that blue denim feel. This design was inspired by this mood board. And so creating a mood board, you can do it on Pinterest. You can actually do it with magazines. I have a mood board taped actually to the back of a closet where I cut out a bunch of images that I thought really represented what I wanted my business to be. And those pictures torn from magazines all those years ago really represent exactly who and what we are. The next thing that you need to think about, and I know again that I've spoken about this before, you need to think about logical first steps. As you are building your website, this is one of the hardest questions to answer. What do you want people to do when they come to your website? Learn, schedule, buy? Well, maybe you do a schedule an appointment. Maybe you just want people to learn more. And learn more can be browsing a portfolio, looking at a process. Whatever it is, you need to think about, what do you want people to do first? What makes the most sense? In some businesses, it's contact us, buy now. In other instances, it's more browse, learn a little bit before you take action. Beyond form is function. So it's great that your website looks beautiful, but it's really important that it includes functions, things people can do when they come to your site. What are those features? Well, if it is important for you to establish credibility, if it's important for you to give people a taste of how you approach things, then news, articles, and blogs are going to be very helpful. If you want to bring people into your pipeline, you need to have an email sign up with a compelling reason to join. Simply sign up for our newsletter ain't gonna cut it. Get a new recipe every week? Maybe. Discover 10 ways to improve your website today? Yeah, that might do it. You want to have forms and resources and checklists and tools and things people can use and do. Maybe you want to have photos and videos. If you have a portfolio, you definitely want to have a photo gallery of the work that you have done. Or if you're an organization, maybe you want to have photos of your events. Making this list of features before you get started helps a web design firm give you a realistic quote so you don't end up at the end of the project with them saying, yeah, that's going to cost more. Shopping carts. If you're going to build an e-commerce site, don't wait till the website's halfway through design before you talk about it. This is one of the conversations you need to have very early on because you want to make sure that the platform you're using is going to support the kind of e-commerce business you want to have. Calendars. If you run a lot of events, if you want people to be able to schedule appointments, think about a calendar. If you're running events, if you're going to need registration forms, there are different plugins and different ways to approach event registration. If you have content that you do not want to make available to everyone, having a conversation about password protection is important. If it's simple password protection or if you have lots of different levels of security, again, this should be on your wish list right at the beginning. If you need special contact forms, if you need request a quote, or you want, maybe you want to have potential employees upload resumes. Websites can do this, but only if you have it on your wish list right at the beginning. And then there are the extras, and these are things that you probably are not thinking about. Your web design company should be talking to you about it, but if they don't, you should be talking to them. The first is HTTPS encryption. This used to be something that only e-commerce websites worried about, but today every website should be encrypted. Even if you're just collecting names and email addresses, you should have your data encrypted. You want to have malware and spam protection. You want to have security to prevent your website from being hacked. You want to make sure that you have routine backup service. Things happen. Servers go down. Websites crash. You want to know that when that happens, there is a recent backup of your website so that it can be restored quickly. Now, I'm not saying this is an everyday occurrence, but if it happens, if you're hacked, if something goes wrong, if an employee makes a mistake when they're updating your website and they wipe out pages of your website, you want to have that backup service. Software updates. You want to have a plan for routinely updating the operating system of your website. Either you need to know how to do it, or you need to know that your web design company will do it for you on an ongoing basis. You want to have traffic and performance monitoring so that you know that your website works, and there should be some foundational SEO work done. The pages should be optimized. Now, SEO is not a set it and forget it. You don't get to do it one time and never think about it again. But if you have a good foundation, that'll give you something to build on over time. And then you want to have a launch plan. When your website is ready to go, the first thing you should do is celebrate. Pop the cork. It was a long project and you want to enjoy the moment. Send a newsletter and share on social media. Let your community know you have a new website and why they should swing by. Measure your results at 30, 60, and 90 days. Make sure the pages you've created are doing what you want them to do, and then develop an update plan. I know, you just launched your website and you're thinking, Lorraine, give me a break. But in the world of the internet, 2 years is a lifetime, and you're going to have to redo this process again and again, because websites have to change over time. The expectations of your customers and the capabilities of your website will improve. In 2002, when we launched our website, it was a cute little site, very simply text-based with just a little bit of animation to make it interesting. But we changed, and so did our website. We launched our first WordPress site, and then we launched another WordPress site, and we added more features and more information. We changed our styling, and we were able to add tabs on the home page and more interactive buttons. We updated it to a flatter design, and this was really our first true mobile responsive design, because each of these columns would stack when you looked at it on the phone. This update was probably 4 or 5 years ago, and we seemed to have a format that we really kind of liked, but we didn't stay there. We updated it, and we updated again. And now this particular design is about 2 years old, and we are ready to blow it up and start over. We have to be, because there is so much more that we can do now with audio files and video and interactive forms that we just couldn't let this continue to stay the way it was. Okay, questions as we're wrapping up. And just a quick reminder that because you've attended one of these webinars, you are now a member of the Digital Toolbox, and you can log in and find information on this and all of our programs. And so if you've got questions,